we had a follow-up meeting with the agency regarding our CRL for Primatene Mist. In this meeting, we presented an updated risk analysis which supports approval based on the existing data from our human factor studies. We believe that it was a very productive meeting, and the agency is currently assessing our risk analysis and indicated that it would like to schedule a teleconference call this month. We were encouraged by the tone of the meeting, and we remain committed to relaunching the product in the OTC market.
Okay. And then just last question for Jason, go back to your comments around Primatene. So, what should we kind of on the outside expect to hear from you guys on that asset going forward? Anything before, next conference call or do we get a little bit?
Yeah.
Info after?
Potentially. So right now we are actually expecting a follow-up meeting via teleconference this month to discuss our risk analysis, which further supports the current data. Because what we're trying to do here, although doing a study as we've talked about is not difficult, but we don't want to spin our wheels. So right now what we're trying to do is sort of nail down the exact concerns of the agency, and that's what we did with our first meeting that we had following the CRL. Now that we understand what their issue is, we've done a reanalysis, based on the 3 critical steps that were required to show the understanding of the label, and we've actually categorized those 3 steps, with shaking being the most critical. So based on a more thorough risk analysis, we're looking at this again with the agency, and we should actually, on this point, sort of in the next 1 to 2 months, have a better understanding of whether they will accept that analysis or if we want to, move forward and do another study.
Okay. Those are all of my questions. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next question comes from the line of Gary Nachman with BMO Capital Markets. Your line is open.
Hi, guys. Depending on how Primatene and naloxone play out, if there was a positive outcome on those, would you be ready to launch them immediately? What would need to happen at your end internally to prepare for that? And I think it's safe to say that you would have to refile for both of those in a good outcome. I just wanted to confirm that.
Well, first of all, on the Primatene, we had made product going into the PDUFA date last year. It was unlabeled, so we were just hoping to get approval and then just make some final adjustments on the label. So we do have some bright stock that theoretically could be used. As time goes on, though, the longer it sits there, the less likely we will be able to use them. We'd have to start, manufacturing again. However, we do have all of the components and supplies that we need other than the labels and the boxes. So we need the wording, the exact wording on the boxes and the labels and the insert in order to do that. So we could we could launch Primatene relatively quickly after approval. The naloxone nasal spray, intranasal product, we do not have the materials on hand right now, so that's not something that we would be able to launch.
And then with respect to your question on responding to the CRL, on Primatene, if they were to accept the reanalysis without any additional new data, theoretically that could be approved without a response, but that would be a reconsideration. If there's new data needed or another study, then we need to submit that new data to the NDA, as a response to the CRL. And then, the bigger, there's just the one issue on Primatene, which is the human factor studies. We view that as more straightforward.
I just wanted to get some clarification, Jason, some of your comments about your conference call with the FDA. Did you say something like it was good to hear what their real issues are? I guess my thought is, were there some issues that came up that you hadn't heard before? And if so, does this give you more or less confidence that you'll get approval? And I know I've asked you this before, but at this point, are you wondering if the FDA is ever going to approve this product? I mean, it was on the market for decades and was used by millions of Americans. And then the other question is on the share buyback. You're allocating more funds for it. Does this mean that you're seeing less attractive opportunities to buy? I know that you've made a number of acquisitions over the years, and you've generally used cash to buy them. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, David. So actually, I was thinking of you specifically, even while I was sitting in this meeting. It was an in-person meeting at FDA last week, and they brought up an interesting point. They said, this is a controversial product, but they went on to say that they are committed to approving it over the counter, and therefore they've got to get it right, and we've got to get it right. And so, one of the real issues, which I think we helped clarify, was on the first call that we had with them following the CRL. One person made a comment regarding it being a acute rescue medication, and we really wanted to clarify that this is, essentially for mild symptoms of intermittent asthma. An analogy being that, you can have a drug like Nasacort, which is for allergies, but somebody who's going into anaphylactic shock for eating peanuts is not going to misunderstand that and try to use it instead of an EpiPen. So we really wanted to, sort of break it down to the fundamental of the human factor study and whether or not, if somebody failed to clean the inhaler, if there really was a major risk of not getting the dosage, and then what that risk, actually means. And ultimately, our new risk analysis really shows that shaking is the true critical factor, and the other factors such as cleaning and the initial prime are less risky with respect to getting your dosage. So when I say the real issue, I think it's more about just sort of narrowing down the issues to the real core point. And I think one of the concerns is that people may try to use this in place of something like albuterol and someone who really has life-threatening asthma. And we don't believe that's the case. It was over the counter for 50 years, and typically people with severe asthma know they're in that category, and we're making it clear in our label that this is for mild symptoms, it's for intermittent asthma, and really if you're having an asthma attack, you should call 911 or use your albuterol inhaler.